And joining us now from Washington, D.C. is Omar Baddar of the Arab American Institute, and in Miami, Florida, a member of the AIPAC National Council, Harley Lipman, who is an AIPAC activist, not an AIPAC employee. Omar, let me start with you. The claim that Jews are using their dollars to buy power in America is a classic anti-Semitic trope, and Ilhan Omar apologized for it. Was she wrong to apologize?
First of all, she did not make the claim that Jews were using their money to influence politics. She was talking specifically about AIPAC, which is largely acknowledged as one of the more powerful organizations in Washington by the admission of members of Congress themselves and by the bragging of AIPAC officials themselves as well. So for us to pretend that the Israel lobby is somehow an exception to the American special interest game that we have in politics here, whether it's the oil lobby, whether it's the gun lobby, whether it's anybody else, everybody understands that lobbying involves money influencing politics, and the idea that the Israel lobby is somehow an exception is completely preposterous. So I think Ilhan's mistake was that she spoke in a way that opened herself up to the potential smear of having her words twisted to seem like she was talking about Jews and that she was anti-Semitic. And in that sense, she may have been a little bit careless. But let's be serious. Basically, she is the victim of a smear campaign that twisted her words to make it seem like she was talking about Jews when she was not. AIPAC does not represent all American Jews. There are plenty of American Jews who oppose Israeli policy and are horrified by the kind of policies that AIPAC is pushing for, which are very damaging both in the Middle East in terms of efforts to push for peace and, frankly, also undermining American rights in terms of policies that undermine the First Amendment here at home.
Harley, I want to get your reaction for that. I mean, AIPAC does use money to lobby. That's the nature of lobbying. And in fact, it used this incident in order to raise more money. Was it not true what Ilhan Omar said?
No, it's not. AIPAC does not give any money to any elected officials. What AIPAC does do is exercise its First Amendment rights, and it encourages people who care about this issue to work together and to support the candidates that we have shared beliefs in. Now, insofar as what Omer just said, that she didn't just focus on AIPAC, that's not correct. In her comments, she specifically mentioned AIPAC only, no other organization. So Omar, I agree, if you want to focus on lobbying overall, that's fair and that's reasonable. And that's not anything that could be seen as anti-Semitic.
Sorry, Harley, but I do need to ask you, because her statement about AIPAC was in response to a question about who do you think is using money in order to encourage politicians to be pro-Israel. Surely that is a record that AIPAC will be proud of, no?
Well, AIPAC encourages people and its members to help candidates. They do, but AIPAC as an organization does not give any money to elected officials. It's a very common misconception. They're really basically an educational organization.
But we have to give the audience
Omar, let me get your reaction there, because forget anti-Semitism. What Ilhan Omar said was simply false. AIPAC is not a PAC. It doesn't fund campaigns. And in any case, it spends far less than other lobby groups. Sorry, Harley, but AIPAC is a paper tiger, isn't it, Omar?
No.
Look,
no,
I mean, we have to be honest with the audience. Here's the thing. AIPAC does not directly give money to candidates, but it's absolutely clear for everybody who understands anything about the way AIPAC functions that indirectly gives money to members of Congress. There is a congressional club on AIPAC's own website, and in order to become a member, they say the eligibility for it, that you have to commit to a minimum of several $1,000s that you contribute to pro-Israel candidates every election cycle. So let's not play around with this kind of game. Yes, AIPAC does not do it directly, and frankly, singling out AIPAC is probably not correct, because there are plenty of other forces that are part of the broader pro-Israel lobby, whether it's the evangelical Christian base or whether it's billionaires like Sheldon Adelson and many others who are part of this game. But ultimately, this is not about a genuine concern about bigotry, because Donald Trump, who's calling for Ilhan's resignation, he himself has, unlike her, engaged in actual anti-Semitic tropes when he was running for president, including meeting with the Republican Jewish coalition and telling them, you're not going to support me because I don't need your money, and you like to control politicians. If there's anything more blatantly bigoted against Jews than that, I don't know what that is. So this is not about bigotry. This is about intimidating and smearing and silencing anybody who dares to question the Israel lobby and Israeli policy towards the Palestinians, which is extremely destructive and unjust right now.
Harley, given President Trump did indeed say that to the Republican Jewish coalition, he said, here's the full quote, "You're not going to support me because I don't want your money. You don't want to give me your money, but that's okay. You want to control your your own politicians. That's fine. Of course, we can't forget the time he called the Charlottesville neo-Nazis very fine people. Do you welcome Donald Trump's support here, or can you admit this is a shameless hypocrisy and the US Jewish community is being dragged into a debate between two sides that don't have its best interests at heart?
Well, I think on both sides of the aisle, there have been comments made that can be considered anti-Semitic. And it's not because our community doesn't like criticism of Israel. Criticize Israel. I criticize Israel. There's many things they do wrong. It's absolutely okay. There's nothing wrong with that. It becomes anti-Semitic when you apply the double standard. When, for example, at the UN, when the UN has more resolutions against Israel in terms of human rights violations than Cuba, North Korea, Iran, China, and all those other countries combined, you know that it's anti-Semitic because Israel is a functioning democracy. It has its flaws and problems like America does as a democracy, but it is a democracy. And what she said when she said that Americans are supporting Israel only because of money, and said AIPAC, that's not correct. The reason why Americans support Israel is, one, because of shared values. Shared values, the Judeo-Christian ethos, the fact that Israel is a democracy like the United States. Israel is an ally of the United States. Israel and the United States.
Harley, I'm afraid I have to cut you off because we've reached the end of the show. Harley Libman and Omar Baddar, thank you very much for joining us for that debate about AIPAC. We've reached the end of our show.